everybody was commenting.
Like typing in, going like, poor Kevin or something.
That's our opening. Poor Kevin.
Well, welcome to another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Mont-Roses, and we have Lisa Mont-Roses, and we have some amazing guests and friends of ours. So I will let you both introduce yourselves, but go ahead, tell us who you are and why are you even here today?
You
just showed up. We just came, and you were literally just sitting here. And we're like, "Why are you here today?"
We
free food.
bribed you with wine and tequila.
I was just shopping at the rack.
Yeah, and you're like, seriously, I walk in and you sit here.
This place.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Tracy Erickson.
I'm Kevin Erickson.
And we both work for Compass.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Compass, for the audience.
Yes.
So Compass is a
real estate company.
Real estate company, all right.
Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
Nationally,
but I'm in Seattle and Kevin's in Bellevue.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm the managing broker for the 108th office.
Okay.
Here in Bellevue, and Tracy's a broker out of the Seattle office.
Awesome. So what? Tell us a little bit about yourselves personally, like. How long you guys been together? Are you even together? Are you?
I mean,
again, like you know,
changes minute to minute. Yeah, I guess.
So yeah,
well, we're a husband and wife unit.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, we've been married for 11 years, together for 13. We have 2 kids, ages 6 and 9, boy and a girl. We previously worked together for 12 years. Yeah, 12 years. And then in April of this year, 2019, we broke up the band and just started working independently.
Yeah, we worked together in 2 different industries, though, because when we met, I met Tracy at my first restaurant, which is a wine bar on Queen Anne called Brico.
Okay.
And then we opened 2 restaurants after that. And so... So for the longest time we were working together in that capacity, and then we were working together in real estate. So up until this year, mind you.
Yes.
So when you were working in the restaurant business, were you guys both, in the same space all the time, or what were your roles?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
All the time.
Well, I mean, at that point, he had his first restaurant, and then we opened together restaurant number 2 and restaurant number 3.
Okay.
So we were, I mean, a lot of times we were at the same restaurant at the same time. We were managing at the same time, but...
Different capacities. I was back of the house, she was front of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't let him out of the kitchen much.
Yeah, just washing dishes.
I know.
That's awesome.
Like every owner of a restaurant does.
I know, right? Yeah, totally.
So didn't show up today.
Yeah, I guess I'll wash dishes today. I guess I'll play host.
Awesome.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, we, and that was, I remember Tracy came home one day and just after our first child was born, Jack, and said, I don't want to do this anymore. So, and at the time, we had plans to do a restaurant in South Lake Union.
You did.
Or I did.
You did.
We.
That was not a we. That was a you.
I was told that was not happening. So
it was not.
Yeah. So I transitioned into real estate, and Tracy had been in real estate prior to that, and so we sold 2 of the restaurants off and kept one, the largest one in Ballard, and so she ran that for a year, and I went into real estate, and then a year later we sold that, and she jumped into real estate. So
yeah.
So what was the defining moment where you were like, okay, we're not doing this?
For the restaurants?
Yeah, for the restaurants.
After we had our first child, I mean, to be clear, I was pregnant with Jack, and about a month before he was due, Kevin opened a bar. So
Okay.
This is a really familiar story.
Yeah, I was about to have our first child. We had 2 restaurants. Space became available, and he's like, I have to have this space. I've always wanted that space. It's going to be an amazing bar. And the next thing I knew, he was basically like directing, project managing the space from the delivery room and building it out. And so when Jack was about 1, I mean, we went through we had 3 restaurants for about a year. And when Jack was about 1, And I just, we had gone through about a year of owning the bar, and it just put me over the edge. I was like, we have a baby, it's our first child. The restaurants were fine, but now, we're in a totally different realm of things, which is owning a bar on the busiest street in Ballard and having to have security on Friday and Saturday nights and, things happening in the bathroom I don't want to know about and, all of that. And so it just wasn't what I envisioned. I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but I didn't really ask you.
He was like, the money was
so
great. The business was awesome.
another restaurant group that we were good friends with, they had wanted that space when it came up as well, like originally.
Mm-hmm.
And so one day I just called those guys and said, hey, do you want to buy this? And they were like, yeah, we're all over it. We totally want to buy it. We'll take that space. So that was the end of that.
Okay.
That
so
ended.
you finalized that deal.
Yeah.
You're like, this is being.
I was like, Kevin, I'm done. We're calling
So
these
that
guys. We're gonna sell it to them, and I knew they wanted it. So that was an easy sell. We just got out of that one real easy.
Yeah.
And then with his wine bar, the bigger restaurant in Ballard really took up a lot of our time. So with the wine bar that he had originally opened on Queen Anne, he wasn't there as much anymore. And it was such a small place, and so many regulars from the neighborhood would be coming in all the time. They would, where's Kevin? Where's Kevin? Why isn't Kevin here? And, because Kevin opened a bar, and Kevin was doing another restaurant, and Kevin had a baby. So, that the restaurant wasn't, it wasn't doing terrible, but at the same time, people really just wanted to see him there. And
Kind of a big deal.
yeah.
I mean, we're gathering that.
Right. So, but, again, with that restaurant, we lucked out because we had some regulars. He was a chef and she was a pastry chef, and they wanted to buy their own place. So they bought it from us.
Oh.
So we got lucky and they bought it. And so that was gone. And so then we just had the one big restaurant in Ballard, and that was fine. I was like, this is good. Like, we're having our second child now, but Kevin got bored.
And then Kevin was like, okay.
Kevin got bored.
Oh, now you want to keep this?
Yeah. Well,
now you want this one? Now we're done. Now
I
we're
thought it was fine. No, and so, after
I just learned, this is the first time I've heard this.
after I sold off the two, I was thinking we'd just have the one, and then he went and got his real estate license. So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then,
Did you just have fatigue? Was it just burnout of going? I mean, that was a lot, right? In that short amount of time, right?
Yeah, well, it was having three at once was kind of too much, and we were always set up as a mom and pop, right? So, we have friends that own restaurant groups, and they go in, and from day one, management is set up, and they set up and walk away, and
Right.
that's great. We weren't set up like that, so if someone didn't show up, it was us. Working. And when we were there, regardless, but then when you had three, you couldn't physically be at all of the spaces. And even when we...
So probably not the best
No,
model
I mean, even when we hired
set up
managers, we were paying pretty significant sums of money, but now the problems were between the manager and the staff, right? So you were still going in and having to... why are we paying this money? So it was a time management thing, and then obviously with kids, I mean, all these are pretty much nighttime establishments,
Sure.
right? So it just wasn't working in that regard.
Yeah.
As far as you guys working together in the restaurants, how did you find success with that? Your lives, we've talked with a lot of couples that have done business
like
together.
I said, we wouldn't let him out of the kitchen. That was probably the first,
Well, we had separate roles. We had very, we were there physically in the same building, but our tasks were completely different.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think the reason, you could probably speak to this better than I could, but, Kevin loves cooking, and he's a really talented chef, and so that was where the first restaurant came out of, was him cooking. And he would, at the wine bar up on Queen Anne, he was always in the kitchen cooking, and that's where it was an open kitchen, so people would see him. And so that was always his role, was to, be in the kitchen, cooking, making sure plates were coming out correctly, dealing with the back of the house staff. And then, I would do the front of the house because that took a little more
You had to be personable, apparently. in the front of
And
the
not
house.
just a big deal.
It's so blunt, you know. I mean, when you're dealing with restaurant people, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I love them all, but like the ones that we always had were younger, and I'd be like, "Well, I have a test tomorrow. Can I have the day off? Oh my God, my boyfriend broke up with me. I'm so sad." And Kevin would be like, "Shut up and get to work," you know. And he had no patience for it, and so, you know, I think I was just better suited to be out front with them, and you know, and I had an eye for that sort of detail, and he had an eye for detail in the back, and those definitely were our strengths.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so the restaurants go away. You're like, okay, we're doing real estate. How was that transition out of something that you had a passion for, and then you ended up kind of, all right, we're closing shop, moving on to a new opportunity? Talk to us about that transition.
Well, so like I said, you know, we had sold 2 of the restaurants, and we had 1 left. We were pregnant with our second child. And I thought everything was great. I was like, oh my gosh, life is, you know, calmed down. We're good. We're having our second child. And Kevin didn't feel that way. He needed more. So I had done real estate previous to doing restaurants, like worked in title escrow with, you know, real estate agents on a daily basis. And so he had seen what I was doing then when I met him, always had an interest in it. And then...
well, my dad is a architect and urban planner. So,
yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would wake up and, you know, back then, all the listings were drawn, you know, the pictures. So, like, I would go through the Sunday paper and look at all the houses. And so I had, you know, an affinity for it. And, you know, when we sold, I needed to transition, and so that's the direction that I went. And then it just so happened that because she had been in it, and once we sold everything, that she...
Well, I was doing your marketing.
Yeah.
Let's not forget.
That.
I mean, you got started and I did all your marketing for you because I already know how to do it.
That's
and
true.
So, yes, yeah.
The segue.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So
There was that.
There was
Kevin, you're telling it wrong.
Yeah, I did all your marketing.
Why am I here?
I don't know. I don't know. So then we finally sold the 3rd restaurant, and I was doing his marketing, but you know, I didn't have my license, so I couldn't talk to clients or, you know, write contracts or do open houses, or, you know, I mean, there was a huge part of the job I couldn't do. And he was getting busier and busier, and so, you know, it just made sense for me to also get my license at that point and just get right back into business together.
Can't stay away.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
How did you, at that point, because it's the same job. I mean, when you're both, you know, I mean, it's when you're selling real estate, it can be the same job.
Yeah.
You know, your goal is to sell. How did you differentiate then, like different roles? Or did you?
Well, it's kind of the same. She was the bubbly, you know, front-facing, and I was more behind contracts and negotiations and heavy lifting, and so...
The heavy lifting.
I knew that was going to...
You don't get a body like this, so that's some heavy lifting. You know, and so, you know, when we would meet with clients, when we were together... You know, there's just a general, you know, natural kind of progression. Some clients are going to gravitate towards her. Some are going to gravitate towards me.
The bodybuilders.
You know, if husbands, you know, sometimes, you know, one spouse would connect with one of us, and vice versa. So, you know, we just kind of divided it that way, and, you know, whatever we needed to do, you know, if there was something, you know, negative that we had to discuss, and I knew that, you know, well, me talking to the wife is probably going to be more beneficial than you talking to the husband for this, then we just do it like that. So,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kind of.
You're looking at me like it doesn't
Well,
make
kind of,
sense.
yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the question was, but... 'cause it was,
Where am I?
your answer was so long.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You can see how working together
Yeah, yeah.
it was just joy.
Really amazing.
Why are you guys working together now? I don't get it.
So now you're in separate roles,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Which was probably was everybody in celebratory mode, or like, okay, now there's a reason that we don't have to necessarily, because you work together but you don't, right? In the sense of today.
Now, same company.
In the same company, different roles, but there's still moments where you guys are still coming together on the business front.
Well, I mean,
well, it was a curated move. I mean, it was separation of church and state, and we're in the same business, but the hard thing when you're working with your spouse in any industry is one, you're together all the time. Yeah. Two, for us, it was all our conversations, like when we were in the restaurant business, all our conversations, were around what's going on in the business. Didn't matter if it was, what time of day, where we were, whatever. Those were the conversations. And then when we transitioned to real estate, it was the same thing, right? It was just a different industry, but all our conversations were based around, well, what's going on with this file? Where are we in contract? And so now we don't. I mean, we'll recap each other's.
I feel like you don't even know when I have a sale.
Probably not. Probably not.
I do, Tracy.
Yeah, at least I got you. Yeah, Lisa knows, but don't CC him on that. Don't let him know.
Yeah, I mean, so we can, talk, but it's not.
No.
Yeah.
So the lexicon's kind of changed. Where, I mean, we're still kind of getting used to that. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're completely separate now.
Sure.
I am running my own business now, and
You're welcome.
Thanks. And he really teed that up for me.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
He did it for you.
Yeah.
Let's get it out there.
Yeah.
The heavy lifting.
Yeah. Gosh, you really set me up. But I mean, it's really separate. And like I said, I mean, in reality, he doesn't know what I'm doing all day. He doesn't know the conversations I'm having with clients. He doesn't know, really anything that's going on with my business anymore.
Sure.
So,
what was, when you guys were working together? This is kind of a two-part question, but what was the biggest challenge you faced as a couple, being in business on a team together?
Oh.
And
just one.
Multiple challenges, but I also want to layer. You have the kids in the mix too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the? How do you guys navigate a young family working together?
I feel like that part was actually the benefit.
Okay.
Because we were doing this job together, we could always tag team it with the kids, whereas if one person was busy with the client, the other one could go pick up the kids.
That's
One could drop off the kids. One could run to soccer practice, or, he could coach at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So since we were doing it together, that was a huge, was a huge benefit. Yeah. Huge. That part was actually, on the weekends, if one of us, I always did the open houses, but then he could, be with the kids, run them around, do whatever was needed. That part worked really well. That's actually probably been the bigger challenge now that we aren't working together, and he is in a set schedule, every day from 8 to 6. I think that was the hardest part was, okay, from 3 to 6 every day, I'm kind of like... I'm driving.
Yeah.
I have these kids on my own, and they're busy, and it's one's going here, one's going there. I have a tutor. I have, I've got practice. I've got rehearsal. I mean, so, and there's absolutely no way that he's able to help me with that anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the bigger challenge. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm really intrigued on the restaurant side, because this is the first couple we've had that has been come background within the restaurant, beverage, and food industry.
Yeah.
So from an optimizing kind of advice, we have an audience that are probably going in 2020, potentially thinking of not just going into business from a services perspective, but maybe even opening up a restaurant.
Yeah.
Something actually Lisa and I have talked about in the past.
That was originally the plan.
It was.
And then this took off. So the restaurants.
What kind of food would you have done?
Cuban.
Cuban food.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So we made it. Well, this is where I say we. I didn't do anything.
Yeah, Kevin's like, I'll still do it. Side.
You guys can get in, and Tracy and I will drink wine.
Yeah, that's like a side hustle.
No, we did. There was a ton of pork being cooked at our house and Cuban sandwiches and stuff, and it's not anymore, so it's a little sad.
That is sad. I wish I would have known.
Yeah.
It would have been over.
Yeah. So, but it is interesting to me to know what advice would you give somebody that's really kind of considering making that move. And what are some things that they need to look out for initially going into year one into the restaurant business?
Well, 9 out of 10 restaurants fail in the first year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Positive.
Put that in your
Well,
pocket.
so for 2020, if you're thinking about
fail.
this, just
hope and pray you're the one that doesn't fail.
Yeah, you might be that 1 out of 10 that makes it.
Well, I mean, the point of that was, when I opened my first restaurant, it wasn't dumb luck, but it was, there was a ton of stuff that I didn't know, where had I known, I would have been like, oh, God, that's a terrible idea, right? Because, it can be overwhelming, right? And I was really determined and focused to do, I had a plan laid out, and we had a good team, and failure wasn't an option, right? At no time did I think like, oh, well, this might not work. Right, It was like, oh, this is what we're going to do, and it's going to be great, and so be it. And so that was a really small shop, though. I mean, our staff was, on service was 3 or 4.
But I remember when you opened Brico, and he, like I said, like he was in the kitchen, he was the chef, and he refused to order from like a big service provider like Food Services of America
like
or
Cisco or something
Cisco.
like that.
Yeah, he refused to do it, and he would go every day. He would get up in the morning and he would go to the market, go to Pike Place, and get all of like what he wanted to use that day. And he would go to the specialty cheese store and put his order in there. And I'm like, obviously after a while I was like,
that was the fun part.
Well, exactly, that was fun, but it wasn't, cost effective time. It wasn't effective with time. I mean, so many things, but it was one of those things where he's like opening a restaurant and he's, so passionate about the food that he was just, just handpicking everything he wanted to use for that day's menu. And then obviously as he got bigger and we did other places, I mean, that was no longer an
option. It's just not scalable.
But that's like a great example of not knowing what you don't know. Of just like thinking you want to do it one way and it's just
certain things can scale at a smaller capacity.
Yes.
And that's, I think, a lot of businesses challenges are how did they keep the spirit of what they wanted to do originally over time. But the honesty is, I mean, we've faced that in our business. There's standards that you have to place that if every client of ours wanted everything custom, we couldn't do it because we can't scale that.
Right.
And I think you probably guys experienced something similar when you're trying to be organic or whatever the case was.
Right. He wanted his menu. He was really passionate about what he was, the product he was putting out, and.
And then I mean, and staffing, and just there's so much expense, right, to opening a business, and if you have a clear vision for doing it, that's great, but then it's hard to get other people to execute on, or it can be hard, I should say, because some people do it really well and some don't. But to find staffing is hard. It's expensive. The city's expensive now.
Well, and at this point too, I mean, when we had our restaurants, it wasn't $15. The minimum wage was not $15 an hour, and we weren't dealing with the gratuity issues of, is it $15 an hour with gratuity? Is gratuity getting automatically added into the check as a service charge? What is that service charge? We weren't even a part of that, so I feel like it would be so much more challenging now.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake, if for someone that was looking to go into and open a restaurant, I think the biggest thing that is missed is the cost of business, right? Like you do the simple math, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to sell a sandwich for $10, and it costs me, $4. I'm making $6.
Sure.
And it's like you're not making $6, right? Like, because you have your insurance and your building and
taxes,
waste and theft and and there's everything that goes into it. And so at the end of the day, the margins are can be pretty
tight.
soft. So it's a super fun business.
It's fun until it's not. I mean, I think the fun part is you go in every day and it's going to be different. You don't know what to expect. It's like, oh my gosh, is it going to be just this, like, we're slammed, we're super busy, everything's going well, or are we going to go in and it's going to be like a dumpster fire? Like, so and so didn't show up, we ran out of this, like there's a line out the door, the food's coming out really slow,
somebody's crying in the bathroom,
someone's crying in the bathroom, this one is like drinking in the wait station, I mean,
Yeah.
Those you just don't know when things are going to go sideways.
Well, I think people romanticize
those
it,
nights,
right?
yeah.
And
or
it's
days.
easy to do. I mean, sometimes I do that now that we don't have it. But you just have to have a really strong business acumen and like you really have to know your numbers and and you have to know what to do when. It's not only knowing what to do when things go right. You have to know what to do when things go wrong.
More so,
Right?
I think, because you have to fix it when things do start to go wrong. Like not necessarily with the numbers, but just from a service standpoint, or in the middle of the shift, you have to fix it fast. I mean, you have to, when things are going wrong out on the floor, you have to right that ship really quick, or that whole dining experience is done for the day.
I think that's gold for any business. I think any business, it's like, I mean, when things are going great, you can kind of sit back and relax and enjoy it, but the instant things go wrong, you can't, you're not an ostrich. You can't bury your head and hide. Like, it has to be fixed immediately.
You have no time. Yeah. It's true. I mean, absolutely. And, I think sometimes too, like I always say, like if I'm not busy, I'm bored. Like my mind isn't moving as quickly as, when I'm busy. And I feel like that comes from the restaurant industry because it's like, you're working a shift or you're there for the night and it's like your mind's just going. It's like, I got to do this. I got, my next thing is this, that. But then on a slow night, in the restaurant business, like, oh, the waters, you're forgetting to fill waters. You're not clearing plates. Oh my gosh, I forgot to put in that order. Oh, I forgot to do this.
It is an interesting, it's an interesting phenomenon that happens when you would think that when you're slow, because we've been in the business industry as well.
Yeah.
And remember when we used to serve tables, and then you go through this when you're busy, you're on point.
Totally.
When you're slow,
the
service goes down the drain too.
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing that happens.
But
you'd think it'd be opposite.
Yeah, but I feel like that in real estate too. It's like when it's slow, I'm like,
for sure.
Oh my gosh, I meant to send that marketing piece out 2 days ago and I didn't hit send or, whatever. But it's like when you're busy, I feel like, Lisa, you've said this, when you only have so much time to do certain tasks and you're on it.
You get it done.
You just get it done.
When you have a lot of time, you procrastinate, I think.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Your mind
So-
it's a funny thing your mind does.
We're going to have you guys on again because I think we're out of time and we're not done.
Really? Oh my
I don't
gosh.
think we're done.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
It's okay. We'll have you on
Sorry.
again. No, don't be sorry.
That's awesome.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
having
joining us. Like, we
I hope
love
that
it.
was what you guys were
Well, we just want to.
wanting.
It's you. Like, that's what people want to hear.
I mean,
that's
they
for
do,
sure.
but
I think they do, though. I mean, I know they do. I know they do.
we'll see.
I promise you.
Well, can we get a picture so I can?
Yeah, we
post
will.
For today? Will you
Let
do
me.
that for us?
Yeah, let me close out really quick. And then we will.
Oh, Tracy, are we still on?
Calm down. No, we're always on.
I need
Just so
my-
you know, we're always on.
Oh, okay.
So be careful what you
Just need a
say.
social media moment.
It will
Sorry.
end up somewhere. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Co-Founders, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Now we can get a picture.
All right.
Sorry, I thought we were.
No, you're totally good.
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
good.
hey, can we get a picture and go?
Hey.
All right.
Thing on.
Yeah, no.